going on, family? How is everybody doing? How's everybody enjoying the I don't know. Well, if you around where I'm at, we bought out of the what you call it? We bought out of they said we out of the pandemic. We about to start fire up everything again, fire up the economy again, Ain't no more, no shelter in place. We loosey goosey around here. But anyway, fam, please hit that like button for me. Please hit that like button before we get into it. Cost you nothing. Please hit that like button for me. I would appreciate it. Please share. Please go to subscribetobrown.com. I've been sending out the newsletter to everybody amid the pandemic. So if you want to get that, just go to subscribetobrown.com and you'll get that for now. Also, please hit that bell to get notifications. I sent out notifications on Twitter because people said they weren't getting them. So please do that. I sent out the remainder of the shirts a couple days ago. So if you have not received it, you should be receiving that soon. If you want to subscribe, go to patreon.com/ycarnell or donatebrown.com, all of that good stuff. But please hit that like button while you're in here. That is much appreciated. If you hit that button for me, that means a lot. So listen, fam, we got a lot to talk about. We have a lot to talk about. So get your libations. For those of you especially who are still on pandemic quarantine, if you have a different, like whether it's chamomile tea or something else, or Coca-Cola, a glass of water, always refreshing, please get your libation or whatever you need. I hope you have everything because we was late. So I hope you have everything that you need to get through the show right now. So listen, I want to talk about Kanye, but I want to talk about Kanye through a wider lens, right? I heard a quote today, and I said, like, it was in another newsletter, and I said, like, this quote is perfect for like the show that I'm doing. So I'm going to read the quote, and we're going to go through that lens to talk about not just Kanye. We're going to see Kanye and who he is and what he is through a different kind of lens. So here's the quote I saw today, because we're going to have to talk about Yeezy Breezy and all that kind of stuff. So here is the quote that I saw. But let me just put up what we're going to talk about first, because we're going to get to him in a minute. But the quote that I saw, it says, if you want a happy ending, that depends, of course, on where you stop the story. That's the Orson Welles quotes. Now, I'm not talking about the person, I'm just giving credit. But if you want a happy ending, that depends, of course, on where you stop the story. Now, this is a very interesting place as we're going to talk about Kanye in the context of ADOS life and ADOSness and all of that. That's an interesting quote, because what happened to us, in my estimation, is that we stopped our story too soon, in the sense of we believed in a sense of completion, right? Like, we don't have to necessarily fight. The Cosbys are here. We have kind of arrived. There's no need to really do politics. We believed in this idea of individual, rugged, that sort of thing, the ruggedness and individualism. We believed in a lot of stuff. We believed that the ground was solid, when in actuality it was quicksand. And so what we're looking at is like the story that we told ourselves about wealth, about ADOS life, was not a true story. We were coming out of and are still. This is like when you look at the timeline of slavery and Jim Crow and what's still happening to us, we're still technically really coming out of slavery. So when you see that story, you understand that we kind of not only told ourselves the wrong story, but we believed a story that someone else was telling us about ourselves, right? And we didn't understand that the story that they were telling us about ourselves and the people they were using to tell us that story, the celebrities, the black celebrities and the social engineering, we did not understand what they were being used for and how they were going to use to make us believe in a myth that wasn't a helpful kind of myth. Because listen, there are helpful myths in a society, in a tribe or whatever, that kind of, bring forth the best morally and otherwise in that person. There are very helpful kinds of myths that you can believe in, and all societies have that sort of tradition. Even religion has that tradition, right? Has some helpful stories, in them that push you to something different, right? That push you through David Goliath, right? They have a lot in there that says like helpful stories, like you can push, you can make it. You have to begin to separate what are helpful, whether it's helpful history, whether it's helpful realism or whether it's a helpful myth. In our case, we made up myths. And people made up myths for us that don't make sense. Now let's go to the first one. I want to use kind of Prince George's County before I get into it as Prince George's County, Maryland. If you all don't know it, you know, I worked and lived in the DC area for a few years, right? When I was working on the Hill and doing other stuff. So when you said at that time that like we don't really have a lot, and even throughout America, when I have heard that, I say we don't have a lot, or we don't have this and we don't have that. Somebody always pushes us to, well, what about Prince George's? That's a wealthy black county. That's a wealthy this, and you don't know Yvette. It's black people that's got monies, and you just don't know what the monies is. See, if you knew what the monies was, you would understand that we have monies as a community. That's what you hear. That's what I hear. But once again, Prince George's County is kind of stuck in this, and this isn't the first time, and we'll get to the first time, but it's stuck in this. It's stuck in this malaise, right? Well, you thought maybe people thought you could escape hatch, race, or whatever, and it didn't happen. So the ADOS-ness of the moment comes crashing down around your head. And I'm not saying anything bad to the people in PG County. I'm talking about whoever tried to use PG County, and we're gonna connect this to Kanye in a minute. It all connects. Whoever tried to use PG County as like the example of wealth, right? So I just want to, before we get to what we're going to get to, I want to go through what's happening in PG County and what COVID-19 is doing. And I want to juxtapose that to something that's happened in other communities, because what you're going to see is that what we have believed about ourselves, about that we're wealthy and we have money and we got the money, and you just don't know we got the money. You haven't been talking to the right people about the money. That we haven't really understood the difference between income and wealth. And we haven't really understood how you can look at a place and see whether wealth is moving through that area. So let's just talk a little bit about what COVID is doing to our brothers and sisters there. And we're going to get back into it. Okay. So the intensive care unit at Innova Alexandria Hospital has empty beds, and doctors are prepared for a rush of coronavirus patients that has yet to hit the largely white suburb. A dozen miles away at Adventist Healthcare Fort Washington Hospital Center, the ICU is full, and employees treat coronavirus patients in medical tents in the parking lot. Paramedics across Prince George's County are summoned daily to help people struggling to breathe, and funeral home directors are searching for more places to store bodies. That's PG. Prince George is one of the nation's wealthiest. Watch that word. That word gets real slippery. Majority black counties has reported the most coronavirus infections and some of the highest death tolls in the Washington region. Now, I want you to understand one thing before I go on. When they say wealthy, what they're really saying is that what you really find when people talk about wealth in terms of PG County and black areas is that they have more money than most black people. That's not wealth, though. Just because you have more than the rest of us, just because you make 55 or 105 or 140 and the average or the median is 35, that doesn't make you wealthy. That just means you have more than the poorest of the poor. So let's watch that word, but let's continue. Officials say the pandemic, let me bring this up a little bit, has hit the county of 900,000 especially hard because many of the residents are frontline workers exposed daily to the virus, and Prince Georgians disproportionately suffer from underlying health conditions that make the virus more deadly. And this is why one man was explaining to, I think, his wife why he went back out. He said, I'm the only pharmacist, said Bowie resident Nicole Boynes, whose husband, Sean, had asthma but kept working at a pharmacy he helped found in Greenbelt. Sean Boynes, a former Air Force captain, died of COVID-19, the disease the virus causes, on April 2nd. He was 46. I'm the only one. Nobody there but me. Nearly 14% of adults in Prince George's have diabetes, according to county health statistics. 36% are obese, and 64% of the county's Medicare beneficiaries suffer from hypertension rates above the national average. There are fewer hospital beds and primary care doctors than in neighboring jurisdictions, which means residents are less likely to treat medical problems early. See, this is why we have to talk about institutional strength. Like, let's stop talking about individual strength. The county also spends less on public health than its wealthier neighbors. Why don't you just say it's wealthy neighbors? Because I've lived over there and I've seen what Alexandria looks like, and I've seen when you go to even Virginia, and I've seen what Montgomery looks like, and I've seen Prince George's. Just say your wealthy white neighbors. That would make, or your wealthy white and people of color neighbors that aren't majority ADOS. Let's just say that to make it clear and clean for everybody. See, what they're basically saying is, what they're saying when you talk about the hypertension rates and all of that. See, you don't escape. One thing that happens, because they go into this, and we're going to see it, where they talk about even food deserts being there. So don't talk to me about Prince George's County being like this wealthy place. You even have food deserts. And you can't talk to me about the wages or the burdens, right? The burdens of being ADOS and coming out of slavery. Like, well, y'all should just, even though America is a fat country, y'all should just obese. Y'all should just be whatever. America ain't whatever. And you can't talk about us coming outside of the burdens of slavery and everything that comes with that if we ain't even came out of it yet. Like, when you come out of it, listen, this is how you know that we've come out of slavery, that we've come clean out of it. There is no racial wealth gap. There is no lineage wealth gap. Let me make it clear, not racial, because you can bring people from other countries and you can clear out the racial wealth gap because they black too. There is no lineage wealth gap. That's how you know that we've come out of slavery. If there's still a lineage wealth gap, we ain't came out of nothing. So you have all of the baggage and the weight of that. This is not a wealthy county. This is a lot of people who go back into DC, right? This is so they have a better income. A lot of them work around there with people who do that and can spend a little bit of money. They have better incomes. But income is not wealth. And we're going to get to that as we discuss Kanye. Income is not wealth. Right? It's not the same thing. Now, the best stabilizer, when we talk about having a stable ADOS middle class, right? Wealth is the best way to do that. Wealth, generational inheritance, generational wealth. That's the best way to do it. But if you don't have wealth, income can make you stable or seemingly stable until income goes away. But it puts you in a particularly precarious situation because income can go away at any time. You don't control any of the levers. See, if you got a grandmama, granddaddy, whatever, passing stuff down, hey, that's just coming to you. You don't control any of the levels of income, and we have a bias against the bottom caste in this country. That's a big deal. So let's just keep it moving for 1 second, please, if you don't mind. Hold on 1 second. Make sure that's still there. The 174 county residents who had died of COVID-19 as of Sunday, according to the Washington Post tracker, include educators, a maintenance worker, a prominent artist, and a pastor. One of the youngest victims was Leilani Jordan, who had cognitive disabilities and worked at the Giant supermarket in Largo. And mind you, she said that she was going there to take care of the senior citizens. Right? This is what we deal with. Maryland's first coronavirus death announced March 18th was a Prince George's man in his 60s with underlying health conditions. The deaths that followed have been people from poor neighborhoods, from inside the Capitol Beltway and subdivisions outside of it. Just look at this really quick. Prince George's County is on the top, followed by DC, followed by Montgomery, followed by Fairfax, followed by Prince Williams and Frederick and Arlington. Stacked up right at the top. This is race, or the creation of race, for lack of a better term. For lack of a better term. A Washington Post analysis found that among the zip codes with the highest per capita infection rates, 20,769, which includes Glendale, has a median household income of 148,800, but there is also 20712, which includes Mount Rainier on the border with the district and has a median household income of 54,800. Look at that range. Look at that range. And you see a lot of people who are making this money. They were born. We talk about a lot of what we talk about on this show is timing. What kind of political atmosphere were you born into? Well, you were born into an atmosphere, or you came of age in an atmosphere in the late 80s and the 90s, right? That's a different atmosphere. That's timing. You're a retired class born of a moment. And a moment when at least America was pretending that it was trying to do something. So you were getting this government job, and you were getting this affirmative action, and stuff was being ticked off to you. That's timing. So you benefited from a timing that the rest of us don't benefit from. Right? I may have gotten the tail end of that. Gen X probably got the tail end of that. Millennial and the generation after millennial ain't get none of that, because nobody fought for none of that. And that's kind of where we are. Let me see if I can get back to this. Hold on one second. Of the deaths in Prince George's, for which the victim's race ethnicity was reported, 130 were African American, 15 Latino, and 19 were white. And this is why I like for people to report the data accurately, because at the beginning of this article it said blacks and Latinos. But when you look at the actual number, 130 versus 15. Stop saying that like we're all just caught in the pickle. We built the country. We're all just not caught in the pickle anyway. But you get to see the differences. This is why people of color is just a mask for who we are as ADOS, as a bottom caste. So Jordan, the supermarket worker, right? Remember her? She said her mother, Zenobia Shepherd, warned her about the risk. But remember, this is the one with cognitive disabilities, right? Her mother, Zenobia Shepherd, warned her about the risk of the pandemic, but she said Jordan probably did not fully understand. She said, "Mommy, I'm going to work because no one else is going to help the senior citizens get their groceries." That's a beautiful kid right there. That's a beautiful kid right there. And even if we go back to the numbers in terms of who makes what, I want you to look at this number right here. Look at this 148,800. Look at this 54,800. Understand something when we talk about this. Only 5% of black households make more than 112. So half of that county is in the top 5% of black incomes. But understand also that income is not wealth. Right? So let's keep going. Because you have to put this in the context. How many of us have been told, well, Prince George's County is a wealthy county? Wealth and income are two different things. You have the highest, from what I just read, right? The incomes. That's not wealth. And that's why whenever something happens, whether it's a housing crisis or COVID, you don't have what your white neighbor has in the county next door. You don't have it. You know why? You don't have wealth. You don't have everything that comes with wealth. You don't have the social capital that comes with wealth as well. You have none of it because you're not wealthy and you never were. So let's go to the next part. Let's go to the next part really quickly. Patients often require acute care when they arrive at Fort Washington Medical Center with COVID-19, said hospital president Yumni Shim. The intensive care unit has been full for weeks and doctors are now treating COVID-19 patients in the medical surgical tent. So this is what a patients in the wealthy county, that quote unquote wealthy county, this is where they get treated. And the doctor, I saw something on TV that said the doctors, 1 in 3 of the doctors that are, right now, I saw them like MSNBC, are immigrants. Now, the question becomes, though, and it's not a xenophobic question at all. Like, how do we have a shortage of ADOS doctors but we have like 1 in 3 who are from elsewhere? Like, where was the opportunity? Where was the sliding board, the glide for us to tap into this profession? How many people remember the doctor who used to call in all the time? And he was a young guy. He used to call in and he used to talk about how in debt he was from being a doctor. Like, he became a black doctor, ADOS doctor. And he talked about how he was so in debt. He was like $400,000 in debt. See, like, this is the kind of policy you have to advocate for, too. This is why you have to advocate for good schools. This is why in our neighborhood, this is why you have to advocate for reparations. This is so we can pay for college. This is why you have to advocate for certain credits and stuff to be forgiven because of who we are and what we come from. This is why politics is important. People tell me all the time, well, I would love to see more ADOS doctors, but you didn't advocate for them. How many people know that today there was a court that ruled against the idea that the kids in Detroit are not entitled to an education? That was an actual thing. You're not entitled to. I said on the show, a previous show. They said that, like, that's not we can't guarantee that. You just go play with a rat in the corner of your schoolroom. But it requires a level of advocacy, which requires a level of political education that we have just decided, for unbeknownst to me, and I don't understand why, that we don't have to do. Your advocacy gets an ADOS doctor in there. Right? Your advocacy means, I go see Dr. Jamil Washington. It's at least in a proportional number. Nobody's talking about excluding anybody, but in a proportional number, we're here. Think about how many doctors you've seen on TV, no disrespect, like, are not ADOS. I've seen a lot of people of color doctors that are not ADOS. We've been here 400 years. How we can't do this? Now, our people are suffering and we don't have doctors, but people told us we didn't need politics to get them in there. Well, how they gonna go? How they gonna go to school? How they gonna have the biology, right? When you try to go pre-med, it's biology, it's chemistry, all that stuff. That ties directly back to not just freaking work ethic. I just saw that flash from my screen. I don't know what that meant, but that ties all the way back to, like, what your school system looked like. That ties all the way back to the politics of how we distribute money. Oh, you just gonna take the money from the schools based on property tax when my people don't have no money for property tax because they come from slaves in this country, treat them like garbage? That's what you mean? And oppressed us, so we gonna take it like that? That's how we gonna distribute money for schools? We'll never, then we're gonna always be chasing our tails, but we're not gonna do anything about it. We're just gonna listen to people who say, oh, we can overcome it. Just fa la la la, whatever the heck they be saying. But let me just finish this bit about the hospitals before I get all riled up. Joe Jenkins, who owns a funeral home in Landover, had received nearly 500 calls for funerals as of early April, an unprecedented pace that puts him well ahead of the 1,346 funerals he conducted over the course of last year. He has purchased another refrigerator unit, nearly doubling his capacity to store bodies. Right? Paramedic Jason Rush, who is based at the fire station in College Park, said his crew has treated multiple coronavirus patients who cannot stop coughing. Others do not cough at all, he said, but struggle to breathe. And so we end up here. That's what we are. Now, see, the thing about it is, let me just say this. I read an article about a week ago. And it was an Asian doctor. I don't know where he was from. I can't remember. But he was able to save his own life. He was, I think, the first the person in New Jersey to contract or you know that was known to have contracted coronavirus. He had connections with people in Wuhan. He was a doctor or something. He had other doctors. He had all the social capital to save his life. He knew what they were doing in Wuhan before the doctors at his hospital knew what was happening in Wuhan. See, that's what happens. So his social capital, see, what you have is a bunch of different communities with a bunch of different capital. And it's not only just wealth, that's part of it, but they also have social capital. So he can call on all his other social capital to say, hey, help me out here. You're this doctor. What about this doctor? And his daddy was talking to him. I think I posted it like last week on Twitter. How come he has that here? As somebody who doesn't go back generations here, but we don't have it. We don't have this. We don't have a team of doctors, right? We don't have that social capital. That's what it means to be a bottom caste. That's what we should have. That's why you have Boyce Watkins running around and knowing what he's talking about, because there's not a team of doctors who are connected because they've been doctors so long and they come from doctors and their daddy and granddaddy was a doctor. I got an uncle. I got a sister who's a doctor. Right? Like the Asian doctor did. They don't have that. So he doesn't have that. So we just run around saying stupid stuff and everybody just believes a bunch of unproven theories as opposed to having somebody. He was in the hospital. I'll see if I can find that that tweet after I get off. If somebody can find it from last week, I think it was, find it. He was in the hospital getting help from his father, from his other friends who were doctors. And he was basically having them group think his treatment. We don't have it. Not only do we not have it for one person, we don't have it for the group. And even if you do have it, like the epidemiologist who went on the revolt teleconference or whatever it was, a TV conference or YouTube conference. I don't know. They on TV. I don't know why they was on YouTube. But even if you do have it, you have her on with like Fat Joe. We can't be serious. We just need to the Negroes ain't going to believe you if you don't get a bunch of celebrities in here and tell them to sit down somewhere. That's part of the problem. Antonio told y'all weeks ago that what happened awfully and regrettably and sadly, that was heartbreaking. The woman who was there with her husband's body. Antonio told y'all weeks ago that people were going to be trapped in the homes with the bodies of the deceased. That's where we are. What did I read somewhere that we've had as many COVID as Vietnam or something like that? You have to tell yourself the right story. The story matters. The story that you understand about yourself and your group, it matters in terms of how we understand ourselves and how we move. If you believe we made it and anybody can be Jay-Z or Kanye, and Kanye, the fact that Kanye even believes in Kanye is really a problem. And we're going to get to that. But the story matters. And where you cut the story off, we should have, like the 80s and the 90s was a time to ramp up. It wasn't a time to sit back and fall back and be like, it's okay. Anybody can do it. That's an indication that we told ourselves the wrong story. But let me, I just went to that one. Let me go to the next one. Let me finish this up real quick. Swaths of the county, this is what I mentioned earlier, we're talking about PG County, are considered food deserts by the federal government. Dialysis centers are common in its strip malls. About 11% of residents do not have insurance, higher than state and local averages. There are 477 primary care physicians in Prince George's, fewer than half the 1,420 in neighboring, more affluent and whiter Montgomery County, which has about 20% more residents. Think about it. Think about it. This is your wealthy county. This is what they tell you. This is Prince George's. We got money. We got wealth. We got Prince George's County. No. Where are the doctors at there? Because the white county, they probably have some wealth. I don't know what we're talking about. County tax revenue has been limited by a law capping property taxes that first passed in 1978. Prince George's County Council member Danielle M. Glaro said health and social services have been underfunded. See, let me tell you what's happening with this property tax stuff to a certain extent. Let me tell you what's happening too. Like, you know, people have to stop preserving whatever privilege they have, right? So you got a house, and now you say, well, I don't want to pay no more property tax, whatever. No, you can't claim to be affluent. Like, what are you doing? We need this. So you have a house that's valued at X, but you just don't want to pay the tax on it. No, you said you're wealthy. So if this house is a $300,000-$400,000 house, I need you to fund. You have to fund. See, it's almost like we have this boomer and silent generation class, right? That, nah, I'm going to keep everything. Now, I got my house. I'm capping this property tax, right? Nah. But you don't think about what that's supposed to fund for the collective. You don't think about that. What is that supposed to fund for the collective? Now, if you're wealthy, you should be able to pay your property tax. And a real property tax, how do you cap that? Because you still need the services. You and everybody else. But you just don't want to pay the taxes. You want to be considered wealthy. So what you really have in Prince George is where the wealth is likely comparable or comparable to the 30th percentile of whites worth $350K. We don't understand wealth. Like, we have a group that doesn't understand wealth. And we don't understand what true wealth looks like and what even a wealthy group would owe the rest of the group. We don't understand none of that. And I don't know how we get outside of that. As long as we keep doing what we're doing. Because this is what it leads to. More than a decade later, Prince George's invests far less, remember we went through this a little bit, of its own money in health and human services than its neighbors, putting $38.94 per capita towards those services in 2018 compared to $224.25 in Montgomery County, $90.54 in Anne Arundel County, and $109.37 in Howard County, according to the council budget briefing. Here's a little chart you can look at real quick. Health and human services spending per capita. I'll make the bottom a little bit bigger so you can see. Prince George's County spends the lowest overall amount per capita on health and human services. This is bad governance. I'm sorry. You can say what you want to say. This is bad governance. Just look at that. Now look at Montgomery County. So when you so go back. This is connecting politics to real life. So go back to what we heard initially. First of all, Montgomery County is wealthier. Second of all, they probably don't have a cap, right, on their property tax. So look at what they're spending. See, Montgomery County, I wish I had pulled up Montgomery County stats. That's a real wealthy county. In numbers, there's 83 million white homes, over 20 million. And this is just in general. In numbers, there's 83 million white homes, over 20 million of their homes live like Prince George, and 13 million white homes live as neighborhoods of 1.5 million. You know, this is not a wealthy county. This is your competition. So the ones who live like we just talked about, that's your competition. But you call yourself wealthy though. This is not wealth. And this is not how a wealthy community would govern itself. This is the way you cap that and spend this little bit amount on stuff. This don't make no sense. Oh, let me pull this up. Hold on. I think I skipped something. Wait a minute. No, I think it was over here. Okay. So let's just, as we think about Prince George's County, let's do another thing. Because that's just about, this is not a wealthy county. They don't have the wealth. They don't have wealth. This is not a wealth. They have higher income than most of us Negroes. That's not wealth. I just told you how they fare in terms of white America. Okay, fine. They also don't have, when you have wealth, you have a degree of social capital. So there's this article, one rich New York hospital got Warren Buffett's help. And this one got duct tape, right? Social capital also means what you're able to call on and who you're able to call on in times of need. So this Manhattan hospital, Warren Buffett, Goldman Sachs partner fly in 130K mass for Mount Sinai. You're able to call on, this real billionaire, not these little fake Negro billionaires we always call billionaires, these single digit billionaires, or what I call them. Antonio calls them shoelace billionaires. I call them rocket booster billionaires because you're not a billionaire without white capital. So they put the boosters on your back and let you go as far as they need you to go to be social engineering or whatever. That's what it is. But that's not who these people are. See, you can get Michael Bloomberg's money. Remember we talked about when he gave that money away? That's not you can get that money. People say, well, we could do the same thing. No, we can't. We ain't got nobody that can give $1 billion. That would be Oprah giving her all of her worth and a bunch of people's other worth. Now, can't one of our Negro billionaires give $1.8 billion to a college? That's their whole worth. They might not have that. I don't think some of these people are actually true billionaires. A lot of people we call billionaires, I don't think they got 20 million liquid, but whatever. When you are part of what you're a part of, right? When you are part of you have social capital and you're really a part of the wealth class, you can count on the people who are also a member of that to flow money back into the group. Instead, we have this. We have Prince George's County, which went through what it went through. COVID is just one thing. See, when everybody can just kick you back all the time. See, we have this idea that no. This is affecting everybody. No, it's not. If you are wealthy in this crisis, you're probably going to be more wealthy after. If you're poor in this crisis, which we are, you're going to be poorer after. And this is why you always see our community take one little teeny step forward and get kicked in the chest every time. Because we never had real wealth. Which means we never have an elite or a super elite to come down and reach out and grab us and snatch us out the fire. Because we don't have it. These little single digit fraud billionaires, rocket booster billionaires, that's not it. Look at what happened to this. We talk about negative equity. Equity is supposed to have equity in your home. You can take money out of it. You can build on it. What happened during the crisis, during the housing crisis to PG County and all black counties? Well, you don't got that. What Jennifer and Fred Bryant owe on their Prince George's County home, $560,000, estimated value, $480,000. What you gonna pull out of that? Supposed to be a source of wealth, your home? No, not if you're in the ADOS neighborhood. That's the history of redlining and all of that. And you fall right back in because the people target you with subprime loans and all kind of stuff. And because you're in the ADOS neighborhood in general, because of the history of redlining, don't nobody want to live there. It just don't have the same value. You understand, right? You understand. The largest donation to Howard University was $10 million. $10 million gift from the Karsh Family Foundation last month. This is an older article. The STEM scholars at Howard will be able to support more students. The program was previously called the Bison STEM Scholars Program. According to David Bennett, Howard University Vice President of Development, it is the largest gift given by any living individual in the institution's history. It came about a month after the university announced what previously tied for the largest individual gift, $4 million from the Hopper Dean Foundation. Now, compare that. I want you to compare what you just heard about this $10 million donation to Howard. Let's see it one more time for the people in the back. This $1.8 billion gift. Don't say, well, it's different. It's a start. No, your competition is this $1 billion gift. How can the school you in, my alma mater, compete when your highest gift is $10 million and Bloomberg's out here throwing $1 billion around? You can't. Something's got to give. And when we talk about something's got to give, that's why we always talk about reparations. Reparations is that something that has to give. I want you to tell me how else you're competing against Bloomberg. You don't even have a house that's not underwater. Right? Isn't that what we just said? About what happened to us? Right? And so now we get to the so if we understand Buffett gave that money to the hospital, and like we're still struggling in all the hospitals. And I put this in the newsletter on Sunday, so you already seen this, but bear with me if you have. If Buffett gave that money to the hospital and we still don't have the hospitals and we duct taping and trying to figure stuff out, tell me why this should ever have mattered. Why would Jay-Z having a milkshake with this real billionaire ever have mattered to us? I remember when this came out, everybody celebrated this like something really happened, like we hit the lottery. Why did that matter? Why did this matter? I don't care about this old billionaire having a milkshake with Jay-Z. These two men are not the same. And y'all are so desperate. So many of us so desperate to see them as the same, to see him as some type of a business mind. And you don't understand what Buffett is doing or what he is doing. You don't understand that this is social engineering. The whole point of this whole thing is to make you believe that Jay-Z has made it to the level of Buffett, and you can make it too. That's social engineering. So what happens is you don't understand Kanye, and you don't understand, well, why did Jay-Z? Now mind you, remember when Jay-Z said he's charity. He done tried to switch that up now because he put his foot in his mouth. He said, my presence is charity. Meanwhile, other people out here giving real charity. Let me say this, even if Jay-Z could give it, he can't give it because you ain't got enough. Right? But instead of saying you ain't got enough and hey, they just use me, you just try to be crafty and like I'm giving you inspiration. Negroes love to say that I'm your inspiration. Shut up. I'll kick you in the back of your knee coming around talking I'm your inspiration. For what? Inspiration to do what? To lie to Negroes? To backbite us? To have everybody surprised when I can't believe he said what he said about Kaepernick. I'm sure is shocked. I thought Jay-Z would never do nothing like that. Who? That's his job. And so now you get back to Kanye. And people don't say, well, Kanye running around here begging to be a billionaire. Please tell me. Somebody please call me a billionaire. Please. Jay-Z out here looking like a little intern. Look at him. He looked like, hey, boss man. How you doing? I love your tie. It sure is nice. And Kanye out here begging Forbes, can you please call me a billionaire? I done left 10 messages on your phone. I done called y'all and called y'all and called y'all. And I just keep sending y'all all my financials. And y'all still won't call me a billionaire. Y'all done called Jay-Z a billionaire. Puff Daddy. What about me? I got all these shoes. Well, see, that's the problem, Kanye. You don't have all these shoes. You're a rocket booster billionaire. What does that mean, Yvette? Well, he has the boosters of white capital. That's the thing. See, the billionaire, the whole thing is just like you will always be. So let me just say this. That doesn't mean that Kanye Wealth can't have wealth. I'm not saying that. Not the same thing. But you are not the same. And you will never be the same as Warren Buffett. You will never be. Understand, you will always sell Adidas. You will never be Adidas. I'm looking for true ownership. When we talk about what we do here, I'm saying how to be Adidas, how to be Reebok. Y'all told me it was going to be Lonzo Ball. That's what Charlamagne said. Well, I just said, man, just got to do that. You don't know nothing, Charlamagne. That's why you get on my nerves. Because y'all don't know nothing. So when everything goes under, everybody quiet. I don't know. Maybe they ain't do right. Maybe you talk too much. I don't know. I ain't going to talk about it no more. I'm just going to leave it alone. Man, tried. He tried. People start blinking all hard. He tried. No. Let's talk about what went wrong. Because y'all told me I was just a hater. So, Kanye West. You might make millions on top of millions selling Adidas. You will never be Adidas, and that is our problem. See, I say rocket booster billionaire because what you are, if you are still a salesperson, see, you don't make the juice. Well, I own all the. See, it's not even like we own all the orange juice grows. So, our billionaires are mostly in produce. We have a bunch of land, and we have a bunch of land where we do the tomatoes and we do the oranges, and we do some potatoes. So we took our farming from slavery, and we created our billionaires and multimillionaires from the produce. So we are owners, and we create. And we sell from everybody to Kroger's, to Ralph's, to restaurants. That's what we do. So we don't have those, we don't have Adidas, but we have produce. No, that's not what we are. That's what you call a different kind of billionaire. That's what will happen if we had been left alone after slavery to do our own thing. We probably would have been the best farmers. A lot of our stuff probably would have come from that, because that's what we were good at. People would have left us alone and not oppressed us and not hung us from trees and stuff. That's what would have happened, and not stolen everything from us. Yeah. But you're not even a different kind of billionaire. You are a salesperson. You are what I call a royalty billionaire too. I'm tired of hearing from royalty billionaires. You're not Buffett. Like, look at you. Like, I want to just put this up. Look at this Negro surrounded by a bunch of shoes. See, the thing is, you didn't produce none of them shoes. You don't have a factory for none of them shoes. Only thing you do, you're the salesperson. You're still popular, right? And so you've created a brand. It's kind of like even with Jordan. Jordan created a brand. That's not the same thing. People don't understand that there are levels to billionaires. Yes, he's a billionaire. Jordan is. Absolutely, from his Nike One and all that stuff. Right? Yeah, you got that. That's not Buffett. That is a personality billionaire. You're a rocket booster billionaire. You're a billionaire to the extent that you can. Sell this white company shoes to white people majority, and Negroes too. You are a salesperson. Stop trying to see yourself as a business person. Now let's talk about it, because it's almost like Forbes had jokes for this Negro. He don't even realize he's being made fun of. Yeezy is a complicated asset. West owns 100% of it, but is functionally tied, at least for 5+ years, based on the documents we saw, to Adidas, which produces, markets, and distributes the shoes. There's also a separate apparel division that we don't believe makes money. Last year, our sources projected the shoes would finish 2019 with revenue north of $1.5 billion. Adidas will not comment. Adidas not coming many years. I'm up with that. Then or now. Per recent conversations and internal documents, we believe the final revenue number ended up closer to $1.3 billion. Now, how many of us saw the lawsuit a couple days ago or whatever? I forget who the athlete was. Because people always love to say, well, if he got it. That's his. Yeezy is his. If he leave, he can just sue. If Adidas, how many saw? Who was the little? Somebody tell me what was the little logo? That the basketball player had, and Nike said that's mine. I don't know what you was thinking, but we gonna finna walk off with that. You think Kanye gonna beat Adidas in anything if they decide they want to keep? If they decide they want to keep the Yeezy, I mean, and understand, if they decide to do any of that stuff that we just talked about, it's a wrap for you. You don't control any of the levers. You don't control any of the levers. So it says, look at this. Adidas produces, markets, and distributes the shoes. What if Adidas decide we don't want to do one of those things? What if they decide we don't want to do 3 of those things? What happens to Kanye? What happens to this man? It's over. It's finished. Yeah, Kawhi, somebody said in the chat. Thank you. Yeah, it's finished. If they decide they don't want to do that no more, it's finished. They are your rocket booster. They need you right now as a salesperson for the shoe, and they're going to pay you for that. They're going to pay you for that. They're gonna market and have you out there with the shoe. They're going to distribute the shoe. They're going to produce the shoe. Eventually, they're going to move on from the shoe, and you don't control none of that. So you're going to be finished. Stop talking to me about being a billionaire with these little shoes. This is Adidas' shoe. It ain't your shoe, Kanye. Begging Forbes. Please, Forbes. Please. Please. Don't you see? I'm a billionaire. Can't you see, Forbes? Please. Please, don't be like that. And let me just read this part too before we go to close. He done said, I'm worth $3 billion. West's aggressive $3 billion self-appraisal is clearly based on the idea that the business is infinitely portable. It's not. Here's Forbes teaching Kanye about business. Taking Yeezy away from Adidas seems almost prohibitively cumbersome. What they really saying is, Kanye, you can't take this. You can't take Yeezy nowhere. It's the home is Adidas. That's where it stays. You can leave, but Yeezy don't leave. If not contractually impossible, a safer way to value it as a royalty stream, like music publishing or film residuals. What they're saying, Kanye, is that you're doing now what you've always done. You're getting royalties. You got royalties before from songs and rapping, and now you're getting royalties from shoes, sir. They are clowning you in the article that they used to mint you a billionaire. Oh, they got jokes for you. Jokes on jokes on jokes. Hold on a second. Multiples base data from services like royalty exchange and reports of large private transactions can range from as low as 3 for something like faddish like Cardi B's Bodak Yellow to 17 for an evergreen asset like Eddie Murphy Trading Places. They clowned you. They clowned you the whole article. They clowned you. You just got clowned, and you just got. It was a let's clown Kanye arc. He wants to be a billionaire. We're gonna let him be one, but we're gonna clown him as we do it. That's what happened. You know. And if we're coming out of and let me say something else. We're moving into a world, right? It's funny what you see online now as you go throughout the web and like ads follow you. You see stuff pop up, 50% off, 30% off for the shoes or whatever. We're moving out of a world due to coronavirus where people don't have this kind of discretionary income to just be spending on these overpriced shoes that you have with the long back end. People don't have the money for these duck shoes. So what's happening is the question you should ask yourself, Kanye, is not whether or not I'm a billionaire. Why it's awful enough that you want to ask that question while people are lined up for blocks to get food because we're hungry. You're an awful person for that alone. But the question you should ask yourself is, what happens to my life? What happens to me if people don't have the money to buy these little shoes that are too expensive anyway? What happens to my status? What happens? What does Adidas do with me? Because, you're a rocket booster. You're a rocket booster billionaire. If you can't sell the shoes, if you can't sell those shoes to us, not just ADOS, I'm talking about white America. That's why you're getting a lot of this stuff from. That's not majority. If you can't sell those shoes, capital is going to throw you in the trash and do something different. And that's kind of what we are. We're talking about Great Depression right now in terms of level of unemployment. And it's not just ADOS. We get the worst of everything. But it's not just us who are laid off. What happens to you and your little duck shoes? Why you want to be called that? When people say, well, y'all were talking about, Antonio always talking about Byron Allen was a billionaire. No, we talked about the fact that he was doing this civil rights. Yeah, that's a part of it because he owns the Weather Channel. That's an actual. That's not like getting a royalty. That's an actual channel. But we talked about it too in the context of the man's been in the room and he's bringing this civil rights case. Like you haven't moved in a way that makes me think that you have those kinds of assets. I don't see that in your portfolio, right? And I don't see you moving in a way to bring a challenge to or fight for a law that benefits ADOS. I don't see you doing that. See, it's not just about somebody being a billionaire. It's what you do when you're in that room with other people who have money and whether you tell the truth about they don't want us here. I ain't seen you do that, Kanye. Like Byron basically came out and was like, this is what they said to me. In terms of how they tried to negotiate me and box me out. That's a lens into what really happens. That's the thing with these social engineering people, though. You don't want to tell me the truth about what happens when you get inside the room. Nah, you play your role as just a social engineering, and I'm a this and I'm a that, and it's good, and I'm gonna do what Jay-Z. I'm gonna do what they asked me to do, and I'm disappointed in Colin Kaepernick and the way he behaved. That's not what I want. Like that's not what I need. I need you to challenge all this stuff too. I thought when you were rich, you were free. You could challenge stuff and go to Supreme Court and fight for stuff and do all kind of stuff. And then I need you to own an asset, not just this Adidas brand. Like go buy a channel too or do something. Like let's do some, like let's make some moves and look at least billionaire-ish. And then don't nobody want to talk about Kanye, his relationship with Trump and all that kind of stuff. It's a lot going on. It's a lot going on. So we got a lot of, and I think I'm kind of, we got a lot of these rocket booster billionaires who I don't think are going to make it to the next level because because we're in a pandemic. It just is what it is. Economies are, falling apart. What is all still negative dollars right now because we don't need it? So we have to be cognizant of that and how they're being used as a tool and like just how awful it is to like want to be called a billionaire in this moment. Like even if I was a billionaire, I would want to be called a billionaire in this moment where people are suffering, right? I would want to do something and, do what I can. I can't, might not be able to do, I can't be government, but I can do what I can. I'm not going to be begging Forbes. You got to call me a billionaire. You undervalued me. You undervalued me. I'm worth $3 billion in my own mind. I'm a king in my own mind. So anyway, fam, I'm gonna leave it at that, and we're gonna go to break. But I just I look at it as like, what do you do for me, and what are you there for? And I think Kanye is there for a specific purpose. I think a lot of people are there for a specific purpose, and I think that's why they got so mad at Byron Allen's because like he was supposed to be there and just kind of go along and take the crumbs, and when he got mad at that crumb and said, no, this is not right and it's discriminatory, people got really mad. But that gave the people who were excluding him got really mad. And I think everybody needs to get honest about what they're dealing with and what they're going through. But not only that, like Kanye, you're a royalty billionaire. You're a rocket booster billionaire. It's not the same thing. Like I know you've always wanted to be like Jay-Z and he's just a rocket boost billionaire too. Like I don't even understand where your mindset is right now, but I think this is going to backfire on a lot of these people because we're not in the moment or the headspace where we really care about what you do with your duck shoes. So give me a moment. I'm going to go to the phones and we're going to come right back and we're going to have a conversation. What's up, fam? We are back, and we are going straight to the calls. We're going straight to the calls. So, fam, did I cut that off? Okay, we're going straight to the calls, fam. I want to hear what you have to say. Please be polite. And keep it decent so we can go straight to it and we can get through a few calls before we head out of here. I'm going to 804. What is your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, Yvette, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. What's going on?
Hey, this is Josh. I'm calling from Northern Virginia.
Okay.
How you doing?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. It's always a pleasure to listen to your show. Got to give you a big shout out. You kind of inspired me and, even a group of other guys to get more active on, once we started learning about the date and the ADOS tip to even try to do some outreach and, political awareness shows ourselves.
Okay.
So, man, I just want to say thank you for all the work that you do.
Okay.
It's a lot of cleaning up to do out here. So you probably got the biggest street sweeping team and trash trucks out here on the internet. What I have to say about Kanye in this situation is I'm just so, and I'm going to be honest, I didn't even catch. I got on late, and I went back and I was trying to catch from the beginning, but I was like, no, I need to call in because I just wanted to say thank you for doing the show talking about PG County, Washington, D.C. area, because I live up here, and I show people this data, and it's like people, they don't get it because a lot of times we don't compare ourselves to Black America as a whole, or even white America and other groups in the D.C. area, because correct me if I'm wrong, and I don't know if you touched on this, but that color walk report that Dr. Derry and others did, where it showed how the middle ADOS family, the native black, they said, was worth $3,500, and the middle African black family was worth $3,100, and then the middle Indian American family is worth $573. Doesn't that include PG? That's the day we're talking about DC metro area.
Well, I think it's actually. I don't have it in front of me. I think it's actually worse than that, though. But yes, that's the thing. Like, no, you don't have it. Like, what are we talking about? Like, and everybody uses this. Everybody uses. I don't know if people remember it, but like I remember everybody using Prince George's County as like the model, as like the pushback against we don't have wealthy black communities. Now it's another county in somewhere like in Tennessee. Somebody's bringing it up to me now. But like this has always been, Prince George's County has always been like the model. No, we do. You never been to Prince George's County. I'm like, I used to live over near that, dude. I know that. But people don't ever know where you used to be when they talk to you. And so it's just like, no, this is not it. I know this is not it. I know what the wealth data says, and now I have it and I can use it.
Yeah. Yeah, and then when you look, I did something a while back because I wish I had it in front of me now, but I just got tired of hearing it. I'm kind of analytical. And what I did was I went and compared like the richest town, richest county. I think I did the richest town. I don't think I did it by county. But when you go and do that, I did it by richest neighborhoods. And when I did that, what I found out was like the richest neighborhoods in PG County and the richest ADOS county. The richest ADOS county was like number 100. It was in the 100th level or something of America. It wasn't. So you're talking about the richest ADOS county. I think it might have been like 117 or something like that. Richest county in America. It might have been 300 or something. It was something ridiculous. So when you start to think about where, the wealth level that we have and what we call the so-called black wealthy, it's the same time, it's the same thing you say when we said the black bank, It's like, you shouldn't even call it, you should call it, you're more likely to call it the Mexican bank or the Guatemalan bank or something, some third world country. compared to America. So that's kind of what I just wanted to say. I just want to say thank you.
No, thank you, fam. I appreciate it.
For touching on this where I live, because I deal with this every day.
I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do. Thank you, fam. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And you know what else? You know what else, everybody? Thank you, fam. You know what else they don't talk about is how many people in PG County, because they talked about the people who did different kinds of work. But they don't talk about how much. So you have to know, one of the things that this has to be about is everybody has to understand what builds their life. What builds a life in general, but specifically what builds your life. And like, so a lot of people in PG County go into Washington, D.C. to work for the federal government. But then you don't advocate for the feds. So you don't advocate for federal jobs and all that kind of stuff. But that's so much of what you plug into. That's important. And so you have to, like, if there's one thing I would say in this moment is understand, like, what builds your life. Like, what is your life built of? What is your life constructed of? What kind of advocacy do you need for your life to continue? Now, we all know we need reparations on a national level, but on a local level, you have to know what your life is built up to. Who works here? Who works there? Is that thing going to close? Is that thing going to make people sick wherever they work? Or are they cutting back jobs? Is there some kind of bill over there where they're going to extract wealth, that's going to extract wealth from this community because we're connected and we plug into that? Understand what your world is built of. That's important. So I am going now to the next caller. I am going to 415. 415, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
I'm from the Bay Area.
Okay.
And I have watched you for a couple of years now, I think.
Oh.
You are so fascinating.
Thank you. Well, I think.
I'm 78 years old.
Okay.
And I've walked that walk. And I've, coming into this county, we're just like maybe 13 or 1,400 people, black people.
Okay.
And our project was designed by Frank Lloyd Wright. But the people don't want us to know that it's Frank Lloyd Wright. You know, we get suckered all the time. And he copied a lot of his stuff from African stuff, if you know, when you look at it. But I'm just so fascinated by you. You are doing things that need to be done. You need to be on NBC or, you know, we need our own network. We need to start putting our money together. You know, we need these young black men to put $100 a month together at least. Or they could do it a week the way they're selling this stuff, poisoning folks. But we need leaders like you and Dr. Darity and Tom to get out here and talk to these young people. We are like losing ground, like we're in quicksand. We don't know where we're going. We don't know where we've been. You know, you are very important to the community.
Thank you.
I wish I'd have been able to, you know, be there with you. But, you know, God has his way. Like this whole pandemic thing, I told a prayer group, this is God's will. It had to happen so we can see who we are and what purpose we have. Because we can do some things, but we've just got to believe in ourselves. You got me so, I'm just terrified.
No, there's no reason to be terrified, but I think...
You're Howard University, go girl.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
My oldest daughter went there.
Bison her.
Yeah, I've got 9 children and 17 grandchildren.
Oh my, yeah, that's a lot of babies right there now. Talk about it.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I did my job. You know, looking for love in all the wrong places.
Uh-oh.
You know what I mean?
All right now. All right, don't tell your business
but,
now.
You know, I want these young women to know they got to find love within. That's where it starts. It took me like a year ago to find out where the love was. And now that I know who I am, and I see through you that, you know, it's possible to love yourself. I want to do more things, and I want to see more things happen. And I know everything happens for a reason.
Absolutely.
You know, this is all planned. This is all God's will. We're here for a purpose.
Always been.
And you know, I really admire you. I admire your work. I want to see you do more, and I want you out there.
Thank you. I think but you just said everything is God's will. So you just said that, right? So everything unfolds as it should. So like I appreciate the fact that what has happened in terms of what I'm doing and what Antonio is doing, we have been able to kind of build organically within our community. And so nobody can ever say, well, Yvette and Tone were built up, you know, the white media. No, that's not what happened. We were built up, you know, so we are organic. So that happened for a reason too. And so you have to just kind of understand that and kind of flow with it. And I appreciate it.
Well, you know how we do ourselves. We beat ourselves up. And that way we justify all the BS that we went through. But I'm tired of beating myself up.
No,
you know, I want to raise these young people up. I see too many of these young men with no purpose. And I know that you guys can get out here. Come on out to the Bay Area sometimes. Spend some time out here.
All right.
You know, there's money to be made. The little town I live in was supposed to be a black community, but it's so beautiful. Gentrification took place, and it's like God's will that I got incapacitated because I was going up to Board of Supervisors, kicking butt and taking numbers, and they really didn't like me too much. But we have to fight for what we want.
Absolutely.
And you know, you've like shown me, you know, you just can't stop there.
No, you can't stop there.
You got to have a purpose.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it, and I appreciate that. I appreciate the point of view from the elders about what they believe, what you believe, and what you think. I appreciate that, and I appreciate what you just said. It means a lot to me coming from somebody who's seen a lot more of life than I have. So, you know, that's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. God bless you.
God bless you.
And continue to do your work.
Thank you, ma'am. You continue to stay safe, and let me just say, ma'am, part of what happens when you have like young people are energetic, they're soldiers. I'm not young anymore. I'm middle aged now, but young people are soldiers. And so like, and I mean, people have to have direction. They have energy, and she's right. Like there's in the sense of like there's not a lot of direction in terms of what people do. And then when there is direction given to younger people, it's for some like general stuff. Well, you just got to do the right thing, and you're Democrat and da-da-da-da. And it's like, nah, young people see the con in that. They see the con in like, nah, you just telling them that you just gotta, everything is voter registration. That's a part of something, but what are people voting for? They have to be voting for an ADOS agenda. We have to be moving in a very specific direction. So I've been lucky enough to see like young people start to come along, and especially when they see their lives and how they're having less opportunity and how they're being cheated. So I think that's part of it, and that's coming. But shout out to the elders who call in and got some good stuff to say and stuff. I appreciate it. I'm going to the next call, fam. Going to the next call. I am going to 862. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind? You there, 862?
Hello?
What's going on? How you doing?
Oh, I am so delighted. I'm so delighted to be on your show. I have been following you for 5 years.
It's a long time.
Yes. So I've been following you since you were with Voice because I was not a fan of Obama.
Okay.
And I'm really nervous, but
take your time.
I wanted to expand on what you're saying about Kanye.
Okay.
So I would consider myself to be, like before, I would consider myself to have been a token.
Okay.
But now I consider myself a token advocate. And I can tell you right now that those tokens, they are not going to change. They are really not going to change. One of the reasons they're not going to change is a lot of them their legacy is white.
Their legacy is what? I didn't hear you go. You said their legacy is what?
Their legacy is white.
Okay.
Because if you look at someone like a Lester Holt, who's a news anchor, or some of the other tokens that are in corporate America, they have a white legacy. So their children and grandchildren are white, so they just don't identify with our struggle. And
but he
I
used
was
to,
on my
right?
way to being that.
But Kanye, it used to be Kanye from the Shy with his black mama and stuff, right? I mean,
Yes.
so like, are you saying they've totally divorced themselves from that?
Yes,
Okay.
he has totally divorced himself from that, and he's not the only one. And it's very hard to there has to be some kind of life experience or some kind of life thing that keeps you with the community. Because I was on my way to that, but with the downturn of 2007 and 2008, it just threw me off. So I'm just now getting back to where I was as far as income, because I'm a high income earner, and I'm only getting back to that location because of following what you and Antonio Moore and Sandy Darity and even Tommy Curry has really educated me. Okay. Because I was being educated by white America, but being educated by you guys, it is actually getting me back to that high earning potential. I looked at the data. I left the urban area because the white people, they fired me, so then I had to go back and get the government job with the black folks, and I was struggling a lot. I followed your advice. I said, let me go to an area that has enough black people that I'm not going to get lynched, but, not so much to make white people nervous, because you were talking about how blackness is a contagion to wealth. But instead of being that token that I was before, now I consider myself a token operative. And I can tell you, I'm an operative for black people. And I can tell you that I'm a corporate investigator. I'm an institutional investigator. Okay. So when they say something happened at the company or at the radio station or at the sports arena and we're bringing in internal investigators, that's what I do. Okay. So I'm telling you that the wealth is just crazy. When you see these people walking through, because they always try to make themselves seem like they're a regular person. This is with white people too. But they have secret doors. They have special menus. They have things that you would never imagine how these people live. And they'll come out and they'll wave to the fans and they'll sit out there with the fans like they're regular people. They'll say, oh, I don't make that much money, but then you're looking at the stock options, you're looking at they get to use the corporate yacht, they get to use this and that. It's a ridiculous amount of money and a ridiculous lifestyle. And if you're a black person and you get invited into that, you know that you're a token. They let you know. The statistics show white men are not really marrying black women. You can say what you want, you can put a picture up there, but you're still a token. We're not getting hired for the high positions. We're not able to hire somebody else. If we bring someone in, you go look at their team.
Yeah, you don't have no social capital. Yeah, you are the token. The token don't have no social capital. The token can't bring in another token. You can't do that.
Not at all. And other immigrants, they do. You see an Indian person, he's got 2 Indian guys under him. You see a Bosnian person, they have 2 or 3 Bosnian people under them. And there are a lot of immigrants who take advantage, and they are what I like to call Louisiana white, which means that anywhere outside of the population that's more than 30% minority, they are considered white. I was doing an investigation in Louisiana. I'm bringing someone from New York. She's Hispanic. In New York, everybody sees her as Hispanic because they know what Hispanics look like. Yeah. When you're in Louisiana, you're white.
Yeah, because New York is diverse. They used to figuring stuff out. New York has a bunch of different ethnicities and nationalities, different things. So they know, they can figure it out. Oh, you so and so, because I have something to anchor that in. I remember I said this before on the show, but I remember Brian Greene, the physicist, wrote something in his book. You know, I've read a couple of his books, and he wrote something. He said, like, all information needs anchoring. It needs something to be anchored in. And so in New York, the anchoring for understanding where people come from is I grew up around. I've seen all these people. It's a very diverse state. I've seen everything, so I know what you are. When you take that to a Louisiana or even, you know, a Georgia, it's kind of like, oh no, you're white. It's just like, because we don't have that. Like we're Confederate in Georgia at least, but a lot of other places. So it's just like we still operate from this, you know, white black, because that's what it's been for the majority of this country too. It's just been kind of ADOS and white people up until like 1965.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely, which is why the immigration issue is a major issue for us. The people of choice, the people of color issue is a major issue for us, because that has been the thing that's really thrown us off. And the last thing I want to say is that we are on track. I always read the comments. I read every comment. When you get to start having like, you know, 1,000 comments, I don't know what I'm going to do, because I read all the comments, and someone was talking about how stressed they were because people weren't being receptive, and they just felt like black people were so behind. But as someone who has the scholarly knowledge, we are actually on track. We are a young culture. When you talk about Pete Buttigieg's father, when his father came over to the United States, his father had already been educated at a university that existed when Christ was alive. That's how old that university was. So these immigrants have come in. If they have nothing in their pockets, they have generations of being business owners, of working politics. We are very new to this. So this is just our next phase. And I do believe that we're going to get reparations. We only need a critical mass. We don't need everybody. And white people follow us. There are so many white people that want this to happen, but you know, they're not going to stand up. The white women are not going to stand up to the white men. They don't want to risk it because they want to make sure it's 90%, 95% going going.
Well,
that is actually what happened in the civil rights movement. A lot of them followed us in once they realized that we were going to achieve something.
Yeah, they don't want to put no skin in the game. But let me just say this. An ally is somebody who puts skin in the game. If you don't put skin in the game until like you're almost there, like it's almost like when we're at the finish line, they're like, oh, you want to show up and cheer. I'm here now. No, I got here without you. But I agree with you, fam. I want to thank you for calling in. No, I appreciate it. That was an interesting call, though. But you got to know you're the talking in the room. And they know what they got to do. They know what they got to do. Thank you, fam, so much. I appreciate it. Yeah, the talking in the room. How many of y'all want to test whether or not you're the talking in the room? I'm just asking. I don't mean no disrespect. Anyway, let me go to 210-210. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, Yvette, how's it going?
Pretty good. How's it going with you?
Not too bad, not too bad. Kind of interesting you guys were talking. I don't consider myself a token, but I do work for Morgan Stanley, and perhaps I am a token as well, but that's a different conversation. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah,
I found your conversation extremely just illuminating. Like, you were spot on. The article that Forbes put out about Kanye was just an absolute joke. It was when you read into the details, and it talked about how really he had about $125 million in tangible assets or liquid dollars that he could, quickly turn into cash comparatively to the $100 million in debt. And then it looked at basically the revenue stream from Adidas to say he gets a 10% cut, which is about he gets a $140 million cut, and then the multiple is 10, right? That can be 8, that can be 7, depending on the economy. And you kind of spoke to the new economy that we're in, and people losing their jobs, and people's incomes being affected, which would ideally affect his revenue moving forward. And it's saddened me, because this is the structure for most of our black elites, right? If you look at Oprah, if you look at Jay-Z, if you look at 50 Cent, if you look at Kanye, it's the same blueprint, right? Puff Daddy, right? They're all spokesmen for a brand. When you look at Warren Buffett's asset is almost tied entirely to businesses and stocks and assets. Highly, highly liquid assets, not some, 10% deal here, this percent deal there, just a cut of it. He literally owns these assets. He's not a spokesman for anything. He's an owner. And it was just so depressing reading this and just seeing yet another one of our high achievers be reduced to this, begging Forbes to be put into their magazine and to basically be accepted into white capital when you're not it, right? Why not get what you have and say, hey, we got a lot of people starving, we got a lot of people struggling, there's a lot of things going on. Why don't I put my goodwill into that, right? Why don't I grow my business out of that? Look at it from a different perspective, as opposed to being some jackass who's begging to be a billionaire in the midst of a fucking pandemic. I mean, how ridiculous.
Yeah, but you know what?
I mean,
but you know what, fam? You know what, fam? Sometimes you have to just see people who they really are, right? And this is who Kanye is. Kanye is a narcissist. Like, Kanye only cares about Kanye and maybe like his wife and the kids. But like that's what he cares. Kanye is about Kanye. So he ain't thinking about. When I put that tweet out about him, I said, one things I said is like, I went back to the line from him and that Jay-Z record, that Otis record. Can't you see the private jets flying over you? And somewhere we have gotten like this idea that like it's cool to like poverty shame, and we have a lot of people even on this, even on YouTube. Whether you go to Tariq and I got marble tables, I don't need your money, but you keep taking the people's money. So, and I want to know what's going on with the hospital that turned into a COVID center. I just want to know. But I'm just saying, like, we get into this phase where it's almost like one thing that I hope that this whole thing does when the bottom falls out because of coronavirus, that we get out of poverty shaming people, because we're in a world where nobody got none. Kanye is surrounded by a bunch of tennis shoes. Negro, you ain't surrounded by a bunch of oranges that you picked or about a bunch of oil that your oil company with the rig. You ain't standing beside a rig. You standing beside a bunch of tennis shoes, and you don't even own the factories that made the tennis shoes or nothing. You standing about a bunch of tennis shoes that you sell to people. Like, I don't even understand what happens in the mind of somebody who thinks that's like, you really think that you created art, my dude? Like, I don't even understand what happens in the mind of a Kanye. But I know that Kanye is only for Kanye. And the sooner we understand it, the better. Go ahead, fam.
No, you're absolutely right. And it's just like you have to be humble enough to understand that, right? I mean, I make about $200,000 a year, and I'm like a duck, right? Up top, I look calm and cool and collected in the office, and down low, I'm hustling and got a side hustle and a little business on the side, because I know that money isn't anything. And that can be taken away just as quick as I got it.
Yep.
So I don't stand there and right say, hey, I'm making six figures, and you're at 40,000, you're 50. Just as soon as I got it, it can go away. My grandmother was a sharecropper from Alabama. My granddaddy was the same. Right? I don't come from some rich legacy. I understand the dirt that I came from, the red dirt in Alabama that bred me. Right, and you have to stay focused on that and just continue to grind. But it infuriates me that we continue to put out these people, like you said, it's a poverty shame. Dude, you're surrounded by shoes.
But let me ask you a question, fam. Let me ask you a question, fam. You said, what did you just say? You said, I know where I come from, the red dirt, and I so I understand that, and I focus on that. But the problem is, fam, here's the problem. How can you stay focused on it, and you're right to do that? For most people, the question becomes, how can you stay focused on that if you're ashamed of that, right? We have too many people, like when you heard Snoop say, I don't want to see no more slave movies. You never hear a Jewish person say, I don't want to see no more Holocaust movies. If you don't want to stay focused on where you come from and what that means if you're ashamed of it. And we have to deal with the shame in our community for something that we didn't do. That's like being ashamed that somebody shot you. You didn't shoot yourself. Somebody did something horrible to you. That's not anything for you to bear the burden of. How does that enter into this conversation? So I'm going to let you have the last word, fam. I just want to interject that.
No, you're very true. It just feels like that they want to be be the new black or escape away from what being African American is, and fundamentally it's poor. It's disadvantaged, and we need to own that. And like you said, push for reparations, push for equality. We have a shit ton of work to do. If we think that we've made it because Snoop Dogg is here, Kanye West is in Forbes with $1 billion, Jay-Z is wherever, we do not need to pay attention to that. We do not. That's why I appreciate your work.
Thank
just
you,
fundamentally. Straightforward, straight talk, no bullshit, tell it like it is, talk to the people grassroots. I hope you on this air and somewhere else for 100 years and you grow and you are 100 billionaire. I wish you all the success, all the luck, everything you get because you earned it. I appreciate you.
Thank you, fam. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for that. And I don't even know. You know, the thing is, like you talking about, people talk about, well, you want to be. I would want to. If I had $1 billion, it would be like, what could I do for the people? Because as a person, you don't need that as an individual. Like as an individual, no, you don't need that. It should be about, well, what can you do? What can you do with that for the group that you're a part of? That's an oppressed group. How can you move with that? As a person, I don't really need, like, what you need is some cornbread and pinto beans. Like, I don't need, like, I was even watching this stuff on the news. Like, oh, the meat gone. Okay, and what that mean to me? I'm sorry. My problem is what the people are going through that got the plant closed. I'm thinking about the people at the poultry plant here in Georgia who are dying and sick. And what that means, it's not a majority ADOS plant, but the ADOS who are there, because we speak up. That's what happens with citizens, and when you're here legally, you speak up because there are rights associated with that. That's what I'm thinking about. I'm not thinking about, well, I ain't gonna be able to get a chicken wing. I don't need that, no way. People just say the wildest stuff. Anyway, fam, let me get to the next call. I'm going to 804. 804, I'm coming to you. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hi, Yvette. This is Marcus. I'm calling from Northern Virginia.
Hey, what's going on?
Yvette, I just want to say, first of all, I think your greatest asset, you're smart, but it's your humility. When you were just talking to that last caller about how we don't want to see ourselves in slave movies anymore, it really hit home for me because I'm a history teacher, and black kids really, they kind of put their heads down and sing when we talk about slavery and we talk about that part of history. So that part really hit home for me. But living in this DMV area, did you hear about Ben Chili Bowl and the situation they were in and how much they were struggling?
No, I didn't hear. I've been to the bowl a number of times, but I didn't hear about it. What happened?
Basically, Ben's Chili Bowl is struggling to stay open, and they didn't, because of the way the funds were approved by the government. DC wasn't approved because it's under the federal government. And since you lived up here, you know how popular that place is.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a black business.
Yeah.
And DC has been shut down since April 1st. And they're struggling after 3 weeks. 3 weeks, they're talking about how they can't make it. And with your platform, how you talk about there's no black business without black politics, that's a perfect example. Those people have opened that business, had it open since the riots in D.C. So it's been open a long time, but 3-4 weeks, they're struggling. 3-4 weeks, Ben's Chili Bowl could potentially shut down because they don't have any more funds to make it.
That means in terms of their balance sheets and stuff, they're going from just payroll to payroll. Like they're going from there's no reserves. And that's just what that means.
Yeah.
You know, how many times have I had back then, of course, a Frank and fries, you know, with Ben's Chili Bowl. Like it's right on U Street. Like and people celebrate it like, you know, like, oh, we got historic business, we got all this. Yeah, but this business, what this business is telling you when they say like it's 3 weeks we can't make it, is they weren't making it before. Like in terms of like having any reserves. Yeah, you can celebrate it as being historic, and it is historic. But you can do all that all day. But let's talk about the wealth and the cash on hand and the cash reserve that this business have versus other businesses that are doing. Go to Georgetown. Let's talk about how some of those businesses are doing.
Exactly, Yvette. Those places are making donations and giving out free food. And also to your point, I hate what coronavirus is doing to my people, especially. But I love how it's exposing certain things in our society. I live in Loudoun County now, but I come from like rural poverty. And the thing is that I worked at those chicken plants when I was in high school to save money for college, and I know what they're like inside. And now the county that I'm from has one of the highest rates of coronavirus in the country because people are still going to work during a pandemic. And those people are so committed to, we need to feed America. They're so committed, they show up to work anyway during a pandemic. Either they need the money or they just feel committed to their job. And I just, my heart just breaks because I know what those people are like. And to hear people, because I only hear your show address stuff like this, to tell black people, oh, you don't work hard enough. I've seen 30-year-olds who barely can walk because they've been chasing chickens for the past 12 years. To tell the audacity to tell black people they don't work hard enough. And those plants are put certain places, as you always say that we were placed as a bottom caste. So these plants were put certain places to exploit people. You pay people $9.50 in a rural area, and they don't have any other opportunities. They're gonna take it. My father worked at a poultry plant 25 years. He literally could not work another day. He literally worked until his hip and his hip bone was bone on bone, and he couldn't work anymore. No benefits, no nothing. Fortunately, my father saved every penny he got, so he was able to make it. But you know, this nothing. After 25 years of service, absolutely nothing. So I just want to say thank you, Yvette.
Thank you,
keep on doing what you're doing.
Appreciate it.
I do not hear this level of humility from other people that are supposedly advocating for black people. And one more thing about Kanye, because I grew up, you know, not the poorest, but I grew up wanting stuff, so I know a lot about sneakers. Kanye, like Black Twitter goes crazy about Kanye being a billionaire, but he's literally begging Nike to re-release his shoe. A shoe with his name on it. Because he went from Nike, didn't like what they were doing over there, so he went to Adidas.
Yeah, what does he want him to re-release? That Red October or something? What do you want him to do?
Yes, because that's a very popular shoe. And when that shoe sells, he would get a cut of it. So he would stand to make a lot of money. He's begging Nike to re-release it, and they're like, no. So when we talk about black ownership, how is that black ownership? You can't even release something with your name on it. So Yvette, thank you.
Thank you, fam. I appreciate it.
I'm going to keep on listening, and I really, really do appreciate your humility, because you can't. It's like saying, I want to lose weight, but never acknowledging that, never looking at yourself and acknowledging you're overweight. Black people need to acknowledge their place and how we can come up out of it. And we like to look at people like Obama and Diddy and say, you know what, that's where we're at. No, we are not.
You're right, fam.
So thank you.
No, thank you, fam. I appreciate it. And the show don't work. You can thank me all day, and I appreciate it. But the show don't work if y'all don't listen and call in and support. So I appreciate it. And I don't know, people who believe in themselves too much as individuals have a problem to me. So I never believe in the whole being egocentric or narcissistic. That stuff don't make no sense to me. It never made sense to me. So I don't understand. But I want to just go back to what he said in the beginning about like the kids in his, he said he's the teacher, and the kids in his class who kind of cringe or shrink. The way I best see it is kind of shrinking, you know, when somebody talks about slavery. And it's just like, we have to start teaching slavery and everything that came after it as a story of perseverance, as opposed to like, oh, I'm a slave. I'm ashamed of that. No, like your people persevered and fought, and that's why you're still here. That's why you're in that classroom, and that's why you're not dead or still in a field right now. Like we have to start teaching kids that even before they encounter a classroom with a sense of pride in terms of the like teaching about how everybody fought up until this moment. Like there's been a fight up until this moment for rights, for the right to life and liberty, everything that America is supposed to stand for. And so when you teach it that way, it becomes something different. And you need to teach that story so that when your child encounters that story in school, they don't feel some kind of way because of how the teacher might teach it or whatever. And so that has to come from us. But there's nothing to be ashamed about. Like the person who should be ashamed should be the person who enslaved us. Like that's where the shame should lie, not here. So I'm going to the next call. I'm going to take probably a couple more if I can, but I'm going to, let me see. I just had it. Where did it go? I just had the call I was going to take. Let me see. Well, I'll just go to, since maybe they hung up. I'll just go to 803. 803, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Joe Caldwell.
What's going on, caller? How you doing?
Hello?
What's going on? What's on your mind? Cut your background down.
This Milton Caldwell in South Carolina.
Cut your background down for me. With the Caldwell from South Carolina.
Cutting it down. Hey, yeah, can you hear me good?
I can hear you fine.
Yeah, Yvette, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, bro. How you doing?
I'm hanging tough. I've been listening to you for a long time, about 2 years now, and I finally got in with you to talk to you.
All right. What's going on with you?
Well, my name is Milton Caldwell. I'm in South Carolina, Rock Hill, South Carolina.
Right.
And I just had to say some things, man. I've been listening to that, you talking about Kanye West, and I heard Tone talking about him the other day. And it's crazy. What I'm saying is, how do you feel that the ones who are most successful got the most money in our community, and they are the ones who are most enslaved?
Well, you know what? I don't even think they're. I think what happens is people make a choice, right? So I think what happens is, you know, it's funny if you listen to like one of Kanye's old songs where he talks about, I think it's called Big Brother or something. He talks about how Jay-Z like stole an idea from him. And so at that point, there are certain points in our lives where you have a cut point. It's a clear point. Either I realize Jay-Z's a bad person, or I become more like Jay-Z. And I think what happens is after a certain point, people they just figure out, okay, if that's what it takes for me to be here, I'm just going to do whatever it takes to be here. And I don't care like how that hurts anybody else, because that's the standard. And I think it takes a strong person to push against the standard.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. And I've just been looking around. I've been seeing how people acting about the Joe Biden thing and the presidency, and how black people just, like, if you just act like you identify with black people, certain black people, they will get in line and get behind you and will follow you to a cliff. Just follow you to the slaughterhouse. I don't know why people act like this, but we are in the black community. I mean, our community is very, very fragmented, and the people, they don't know which way they're going. They don't know what to listen to, who to listen to. They don't know what to do. So what I'm saying to you, because you have this show, you got this platform, that we should come together and push for reparations right now. The black community, in my opinion, don't have the affordability of waiting around any longer for reparations. This is something that needs to be talked about every day, and we need to push it. And I don't care what we need to do, we need to do it, because I've seen all kind of politicians, I've seen all kind of scenarios, I've seen all kind of activists and civil rights leaders, but nobody have ever been unified enough to go ahead on and push for it and be consistent with it. And that's what I think we need. And I think y'all have a partner like Byron Allen, billionaire, to hopefully he can give you some kind of platform or whatever where you and Tone could have a show like The Hills Rising, or some show where we could see y'all every day.
But see, the thing is, let me just say this. Let me just say this, fam.
But I understand what you. I mean, but I want to see y'all every day talking about reparations. That's what we need. And all
no, I'm not.
We need to do it. Let's do it.
I'm not, and I want to thank you, fam, for that, and I appreciate it. And I'm gonna let you go because I want to get to another caller. But I'm just gonna say thank you, fam, so much. I appreciate it, fam. But let me just say this. See, the thing is, I think we get caught up in this idea of like, you know, and I appreciate the call. I think he's right about it. And we do, reparations needs to be the number one thing. I agree with him all the way. Because that's what we need to be American, and that's what you need to survive. That's just it. Like, there's no survival without generational wealth. You're going to live like the people who pick tomatoes, whatever. Like, the thing is, we think about these people, right? Like, like we have to be on TV. But we don't really understand that they don't really have a following outside of like the people who put them on TV. Like, think about how many of the people we used to watch on TV. I'm not trying to take a dig at Roland because I don't want him to, he just gets crazy sometimes. But like when you see Roland, he's not the only one. I'm not going to really go into naming names. But you see a lot of people who were on TV who are now on YouTube. And they have trouble building a following. And that's because they never had a following. Right, in terms of, so that's why they're having trouble. And this, what it shows you is there's really no benefit to like being on TV. We think those people get way more viewers and we could just only get you there. No. It's not what we think it is in terms of what's there. It's like this. You have the same thing, the rocket booster, but like without the rocket booster, how much of your community support do you have in terms of how you advocate? And you'll see this very little. And you'll see that when you get on TV, you're not free in terms of how you can advocate. You know, as long as I'm not discriminatory or use a bunch of bad words, or if YouTube just gets tired of me for whatever reason, I can be here and have an honest conversation and do an honest show. I don't want to be somewhere where I'm going to be restricted. Even like the number of interviews I've done, I don't do a lot of them. And, you know, I do what I can because I know you don't want to just say I'm not going to do them. And people don't call on you a lot to do them, call on me and Tony a lot to do them. But I still wouldn't do every one because you still don't know how that video is going to get cut up, how much time you're going to have. You know, how a video is edited can make you look a bunch of different ways. So you just have to be careful in terms of this idea of, well, I want to be there. And then they own your content too. So I got all this content at MSNBC or whatever. I don't even own that. So wait a minute. I didn't really even get nothing. I didn't get to really advocate wholeheartedly. And what I did do, I don't even own it. Like, so it's a whole lot of stuff that goes into that. But I'm going to go to what's probably going to be the last call of the evening. Let me see. I lost it again. Oh, 609. 609, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
How you doing, Yvette?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
Let me joggle your memory real quick. Cause we met at the conference.
Okay.
And I told you I was going to call on you one day. You remember the guy from Philly with the gray beard?
I think. That was a busy time.
We're talking about a fuse.
What we talking about? What you talking about?
Sitting there and, you know, one of those meetings. I said, I gave you my card, too.
But what you talked about? That's how I remember everybody about what they said.
Anyway, don't worry about it. Don't worry, because I got to talk to you backstage and all of that, but that's okay. But I got three things. I got three things I want to hit on today.
Okay.
All right. Now, you talked about how people have this, they have their fathers and their grandfathers and things like that. Well, I met a guy, I had to have some surgery, right? And I got a second opinion because I didn't like the first guy.
Okay.
So when I walked into the room with the guy, it was at one of these big hospitals here in Philly. And we were just talking. It was an Indian guy.
Okay.
Young guy. I'd say about 35 years old. So I'm kind of apprehensive because I'm like, okay, this is a young cat. I don't know if I want him cutting me. But then we started talking. Come to find out, we was from the same hometown.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Is that right?
Yeah, and then we were talking even more, and he had then told me, well, my father does the same thing. I do the same thing as my father and his father before him.
Careers
And
are
that
passed down.
automatically put me at comfort because I said, well, Dad, this cat's grown up talking about the kind of stuff he's going to do with me. And that way I know he's comfortable no matter what his age is. He's good with what he's doing. We don't have that as a people. We have one-offs. If we have a doctor in our family, we're lucky to have that doctor. But how many doctors we have that their father and their grandfather was doctors?
Because we can't pass down, because careers are passed down. So if Reconstruction had gone, remember how many in the 1800s, how we saw this advent of black legislators, right? And then the Confederates came and just said, nah, we ain't doing that no more. We're not going to make this possible no more. Then we will have real black politics, black doctors, all that stuff. See, the thing is, so we weren't even able to like create classes of people who could pass down their professions. Professions are passed down. Careers are passed down. So we don't even have it. I was looking at it when I seen it on TV, how many doctors, have names that I know where those names come from. And it's not Adolf's names. And it's just like, and they'll tell you like, oh, my dad was a this and my uncle was a this. We can't do that. And so you have a one-off. And then because we're a bottom caste, you can't even be sure that you're going to be able to pass down this career to your kid. So you just have one doctor in the family and that's it. And then after that, ain't nothing no more.
Right. So the whole thing is, that was just another way, like you said, right after we got out of slavery and we had people in politics, that was another way they cut us off from having a lineage of professional people.
Yeah.
But I want to move on real quick to this thing with the PG County people. Now, yeah, they PG County, and they're not the only black county that has some money around the country. There's like little sprinkles everywhere. But instead of looking at it as though those people have money, you take those very people out of these very nice, affluent black neighborhoods, and you take them anywhere with other white folks. White folks is going to look at them like any other black person. Instead, you could take a white person and put them anywhere, and white people won't know where they at. So the levels are looked upon differently, no matter how much money you come from. When you go to a certain area, you're going to just be black or white. And people got to understand that money don't mean nothing out of their little neighborhood. And the final thing I want to hit on is the Kanye and Jay-Z thing, with the Kanye, with him being a billionaire. I look at what you say like this. When people like Warren Buffett and Bloomberg do something, they make moves that move everything. Kanye and Jay-Z, they don't make no moves. They get caught up in Buffett's and Bloomberg's moves. So they're nobody. And as soon as we understand that their level is a one-off, and they're not doing nothing for the collective, the sooner we understand that, the better off we'll be. And thank you for what you're doing.
You, fam.
Keep doing it. Love you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, fam. I appreciate that. And listen, if y'all want me to remember, you gotta tell me what you said, because I don't remember how you looked. I remember what you said to me. That's how my mind works. But fam, I want to thank everybody for calling in. That's probably going to be the end of the show tonight. And I think, it's interesting what he just said to end it, because one of the things I said about Bill Gates and Steve Jobs before he passed on and all that stuff is, and now Tim Cook, is when some people move, they move whole industries. When some people move, they don't move nothing. And you got to look at, like, when you move, or like people have been, like, Buffett hasn't even said a lot during this coronavirus time, but people have always talking about, well, what stocks did he sell, or what did he do? Everybody's trying to figure out what he did, because when he moves, industries move. And that's what happens with a lot of people who are billionaires, and like it's like like cemented in there, like multi-billion, right? That's kind of what happens. And I think we don't really understand it because we haven't really had access to wealth. But I think it's time that we kind of start learning that and understanding what this is and what it looks like and how wealth expresses itself in terms of our disparities and our life. If we really understand that, then we understand like, oh my God, like not having this generational wealth is an enormous burden in a country where you have to have wealth to live. All these people who are living now and still buying stuff and living the life of Riley, they have it because they have wealth. And I'm just going to ride on that. And America's built on you being able to ride on that for a while. Like ride on your savings or whatever and still having a job, and you can Zoom and y'all can have little, you all can laugh, and it's built on that. It's not built on what we are. We work at the grocery stores and the chicken factories and all of that. And so, we have to begin to, I know we have as ADOS, but as a group of ADOS who a lot of us aren't paying attention, a lot of us aren't on this show or whatever, understand the importance of generational wealth. It's not something that you can say is just like, well, if I have it, I have it. If I don't, I'm going to build it. Nah, you won't. You might think you are, but that's not how this works. It's about timing and a whole bunch of other stuff. But anyway, fam, that is it for tonight. If I didn't get to you, we got another show, and I'm still trying to. I'm still looking into I got the book for the book club, but I'm not going to announce it today because I didn't get the book in the mail. Because I want to hold the book up. But I have that. What else I was going to say? I can't remember. I had one more thing to say. Anyway, please hit that like button before you leave. Please hit that bell. Please share. Please do all of those good things. Please subscribe. If you have not subscribed to the channel, I would appreciate it if you would do that. Go to subscribetobrown.com and add your name to the newsletter list. As always, if you want to donate, you can go to donatebrown.com. If you're in a situation to do that, you can do that. And you can go to patreon.com/ycarnell, all of those good things. But fam, importantly, cost you no money, so hit that like button. Just hit that like you're going out, hit the like button. Like you hit the like you coming in or coming out of a room. Just think of it that way. Anyway, fam, that's going to be it for tonight. The next episode, I'll probably announce what the book club book is going to be. And maybe we can get started reading on this pandemic. Everybody's doing a whole lot of stuff. Maybe we can have a little time of reading with our monocle and glasses and spectacles. So anyway, fam, be easy breezy, finish your libations, get to sleep, get some rest, keep your immune system up, keep social distancing as best you can, wear your little mask on your face, wash your hands, and don't be afraid to tell somebody, listen, I don't mean no disrespect, but you're too close. 6 feet is the parameter still. Until next time, fam, easy breezy.